A Bravo celebrity pleads guilty to wire fraud. Let's take a closer look. Welcome back, Crime Buffs. It's Jay here with another deep dive. Today we are going to look into the life of Real Housewife of Salt Lake City, Miss Jen Shah. Quick note, while I'm doing this video, I'm going to be doing my skincare. I've already washed my face with my daily scrub. It is a Neutrogena all-in-one acne control. I'm next going to use my Neutrogena astringent, and then I'm going to do the ordinary glycolic acid toner to help me get rid of my old acne scars. And then I'm going to use the Good Molecules discoloration correction serum and end it with some Ambi color correcting acne scar repair bleaching skin cream moisturizer. I know that sounds like a lot, and it's because it is. All right, let's get started. Also, today I brought a mirror that I can look into to do my skincare routine, because last time I was doing my hair and I couldn't see a thing. So I tried to rip this sticker off and it didn't go well. Oh well, we're just gonna have to make it work. In November of 2020, when the world was going through a pandemic, Bravo blessed us with another edition of the Housewives franchise by taking their talent to Salt Lake City. Now, when I first heard that Bravo was adding Salt Lake City to its roster of Real Housewife franchise cities, I thought to myself, how many Mormons are rich in Salt Lake City? That's the only thing I knew about Utah was Mormons and snow. So I was very interested to see what these women's lives were like and what kind of wealth you can acquire in Salt Lake City, because I don't know a lot of millionaires that live in Utah. But again, I was never really checking for them. Once the season started, the first episode aired on November 11th, 2020. And we were introduced to a group of women who had very diverse backgrounds as far as culture, religion, family dynamic, addiction, and also careers, businesses, and wealth. You had people who were Mormon, you had people who were Muslim, you had people who were excommunicated from the Mormon church or left the Mormon church. And, you know, it all made for fascinating entertainment. But just because you have a culturally diverse background doesn't mean that you're going to make a good housewife. One of the prerequisites to be a housewife from Bravo is to have an inspirational lifestyle or an inspirational life. Meaning that when the audience watches you, they want to try to aspire to live like you or be inspired to live the kind of life that you're living. So every woman on the show really had some, or is supposed to have some aspect where somebody can say, oh wow, I want that same thing. Here we enter Jen Shah. Jen Shah was living in a ski chalet when the season started. She and her husband, Coach Shah, whose name is Sharif Shah, he is a coach for the University of Utah's football team. He's actually an assistant coach. So they had the chalet. They drove a Porsche. Jen had her own Shah squad. So she had a hairstylist, makeup artist, fashion stylist, personal assistant, personal chef, just everything that you can imagine in a squad. That Porsche's jewelry out the woodwork and out the yin yang, really. All your Louboutins, your YSL, your Gucci, your Prada, your Dolce, your Chanel, your this, your that. She had shoes, she had bags, she had jewelry, she had furs. Everything you would imagine from a housewife she had. And she was one of the more entertaining women on the show. She didn't really have a storyline of like drama. All of her drama was surrounded by, not surrounded by, but was based on conflicts she was having with the other housewives. One of which was the housewife Mary. Mary was married to she's Pentecostal, and she is married to her late grandmother's second husband. So biologically, he is not her grandfather, but by marriage, he was her step-grandfather. And when her grandmother passed away, Mary's grandmother asked her, can you marry, my husband, and you guys continue to take over the church? So Mary is a first lady and also a pastor of this big church in Salt Lake City, and her husband is the pastor as well. So they together are what in my community is called like a super church, like a big church, big congregation. So Mary and her husband live a life that reflects the generosity of their congregation. Mary and Jen got into it at the very beginning of the season because Mary made a snide comment about one day Jen smelled like hospital. Jen got so offended, and they dragged that storyline through the entire season. Season 1 ended with that drama still continuing, and there was really no resolution in it. Like, they just weren't gonna be cool because Mary made that comment. But for the most part, season 1 didn't have any outlandish drama. That was until season 2. During the filming of season 2, in March of 2021, while filming an episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Jen is on a bus with the other cast members because they are getting ready to go on a road trip. Jen receives a phone call from her assistant, and her face immediately changes. It's complete shock and awe. She asks one of the cast members to turn her mic off so that she can take the phone call. She takes the phone call, makes up this story like, oh, my husband is really sick. He's in the hospital. I gotta go. Her aunt, I believe, picks her up from where the location is, and then she drives off pretty abruptly. So people are like, oh my God, I hope Jen's husband is okay. Next thing you know, here comes a bunch of federal agents. The initials on the jacket are FBI and DEA and also HSI, which was a new initial I had never heard of. I just heard it referred to as Homeland Security, but I've never really heard of it referred to as HSI, but HSI is Homeland Security Investigations. So those 3 government agencies were coming on set to arrest Jen Shah. On camera, it says, the agents say, oh, we just want to have a conversation with her. You don't show up with that many agents just wanting to have a conversation with someone. After that, the next thing we see is the film crew at Jen Shah's chalet, and you see all of these government agents with semi-automatic rifles enter Jen's home to arrest her, but they end up arresting or detaining her son, her nephew, her nephew's wife, and I believe her husband was at home at the time. Quick pause. Jen was being suspected of a non-violent crime. At that point, she was just suspected of being involved in some sort of fraud. I didn't think it was appropriate or necessary for these agents to enter a home of someone who's never gave an inclination that they were violent or had weapons of any kind at their home. So why they felt the need to go in with guns, semi-automatic rifles drawn on children, I didn't like that one bit. I understand being armed and at the ready, but semi-automatic rifles for somebody's house in Utah, when you're accusing them of fraud, that felt like overkill to me. So I just wanted to make that quick note. All right. They asked them questions, where's your mom? Where's Jen? Nobody can answer, so they released them to go back into the home. Eventually, Jen turns herself in to the Salt Lake City Police Department and is charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and also conspiracy to commit money laundering. She posts a $250,000 bond and is released after that to go home while she awaits trial. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting all of this information from, I saw it on another documentary. I watched it on Hulu. It is called The Housewife and the Shah Shocker, spelled S-H-A-H. And I will link the trailer to that in the description below. Now, this documentary, just like the one about Erica Jane, was really well done. They had commentary from a defense attorney, from one of the agents who was there to arrest Jen, and then a former housewife named Dana Wilkie, who has a podcast called Dishing Drama with Dana Wilkie Uncensored. Terrible name for a podcast, but that is the name of the podcast. In addition to those people being on the documentary, some of the victims also gave a statement or testimony during the doc, which was fascinating. So let's go from the very beginning of the documentary. This story goes way back to January 2016. New York, the state of New York, was doing an investigation on a narcotics ring, and it was called Operation Double Down. They were actually looking into narcotic smuggling within the state. One of the people involved in this narcotic smuggling ring was named Arash Kataji, and he was found to also be involved in a telemarketing scam. The scam worked like this. While you were surfing the web on social media or any website, there would be a pop-up for an ad. The ad would say something like, work from home, make extra money. Those ads were being targeted to very specific people of a certain age demographic, certain income, certain life status. For instance, divorced, widowed, single mom, single dad, veteran, elderly, women, all of those things. When you sign up for Facebook or any other social media platform, it asks you to put your name, your gender, and your age. So that information can be sent to or sold to companies, and they can actually target ads to you because you meet the demographic for their product or their business. Same with these telemarketers. They were targeting certain people to feed these ads to. These people would then click on the ad and they would purchase a $99 course that would teach them how to run a side business at home, how you can take items around the house and sell them on eBay, but here's how you can market yourself using ads on eBay to get more money, so on and so forth. So these people would buy this $99 course to teach them how to basically build their business with ads. But what happened after that was their personal information and their credit card information was being sold to these other telemarketing businesses. And I use businesses in quotation because the people who were getting this information, the companies that was getting this information from the user was marketing to them a product or service, but they never delivered on the product or the service. So for the users buying this $99 course to build their own business, they would in turn be marketed other products. And the way they were reached out to were by phone or by email. These companies would reach out to these people and say, hey, we noticed that you bought the $99 course. Why don't you buy $1,000 social media ad package? Or why don't you buy this website kit in order to build your own website? Or here's how you can use demographics to find your target audience. This is a program to help you do that. Give us $1,000 and we'll do that. So these people, these customers were paying these companies thousands of dollars to help them build their business, build their website, help with social media ads, and how to find the target audience, but they never delivered on those services or those products. So Homeland Security was calling this a lead list. Basically, this Abash Katabji, he was getting the information from these $99 courses and selling that to these other companies as a lead list. Basically, here's 100 people's names, their contact information, and their credit card information, and you're going to pay me thousands of dollars for it, because they would in turn charge these users thousands of dollars and they were making their money back. But that's how this guy, Arash Kataji, made his money, allegedly. One of the victims in the documentary was named Charlene Foster. This woman was 90 years old. She was using her computer, found one of the ads, clicked on it, put in her credit card information. She doesn't even know what she thinks she was buying, but she was fed these ads and called over and over again relentlessly. And these people ended up getting her for over $28,000. While the FBI was investigating this Arash, they have an audio recording of Arash talking to another man named Andrew Siren. And Andrew says on tape, we can charge Charlene's credit card for $20,000. I can do at least $20,000 today. And Arash is like, well, no, that might seem a bit suspicious because it's on one credit card. Let's just do $15,000 and call it a day. So on that audio recording, he is actively saying that we're going to fraudulently charge this woman's credit card. Arash was found guilty and was sentenced in 2019. And at the end of the investigation, the agents found that there were similar companies to Arash's that were a network throughout the country, one of them being in Arizona, one in Nevada, and one, and you guessed it, Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, you're probably wondering how Jen even got into a business like this. Well, I'm glad you asked. Dana Wilkie, who I mentioned earlier, once she heard that Jen Shah had been arrested, she did some digging into her background. She went to her LinkedIn page and found that Jen was the Director of Business Development for a company called Prosper Inc. between 2006 and 2011. They were a direct response marketing company. Again, telemarketing, calling potential customers directly, contacting them, asking them to buy different products, services, so on and so forth. Well, during the time while Jen was working there, the company got sued by one of its employees for quote unquote waterboarding. The employee claims that during an employee event, like a company event, there was a team building exercise, and the exercise was this employee being waterboarded and the person administering the exercise saying, "You see how they're struggling to breathe? That's how what did he say? That's how dedicated we need you guys to be to selling. Like, we need you to sell like your life depends on it." Because right now his life depends on getting air, and he is struggling to do that. He is working so hard to get air to survive, and that's what we need you guys to do. We need you guys to work so hard to get sales so that you can survive. Now, the company settled with this employee out of court for an undisclosed amount, but that tells you what kind of business you're in when your company puts that much pressure on you to make a sale. After that, Jen went to a company called Thrive, and Thrive was sued by the FCC for $27 million for deceptive sales tactics. So again, they were using illegal tactics to get money out of their customers and potential customers. But Jen was vice president of business development at that company, and in the documentary, it is revealed that Jen felt slighted because the higher ups, the executives, the C-suite was having meetings without her, so she felt like she was being left out. And it was from then on that she decided to go out on her own and start her own business. The business she started was a telemarketing or direct response business. Herein lies the drama. Jen built her business off the skills she learned from these companies. Not only the skills, but the direct way they handled business, she implemented into her business as well. Again, the previous companies were engaging in some questionable tactics. For one, they got sued by an employee, and then the FCC for the next company. So clearly they were doing something wrong. But that didn't tell Jen that she needed to operate her business differently, because she operated it the same way. And that's why she is where she is now. Those tactics are illegal. What you're doing is wrong. She is generating lead lists just like those previous companies, but selling those lead lists to unreputable companies, which are scamming these customers out of thousands of dollars. Which brings me to another victim named Penny Puckett. Penny lived in Ulysses, Kansas. She lived on a farm, and during the pandemic, her husband was struggling to keep the farm afloat because everybody's business was just struggling during the pandemic. So the bank had given them one last chance before they defaulted on the loan to turn the business around, the farming around, so that they could make a profit and pay their loans, but her husband wasn't able to do that. So this woman, Penny, decided to start making these, I think she called them bundle blankets. They were these little blankets that you could put over a stroller to keep a baby warm when it was cold outside, or you could snuggle the baby with it. It could be a changing pad or burping pad. It was a very versatile thing. So she wanted to sell those items on eBay. While she was researching how to start a business, how to, get something listed on eBay, how to sell on social media, because she went to Facebook Marketplace trying to sell these items, she came across this ad saying, "Hey, we'll teach you how to run your business and start your online, footprint." She clicks on it, buys the $99 course, and after that, she was inundated with telemarketing calls saying, "Buy this website. We'll handle your website for you. Buy this social media ad campaign. Buy this, buy that." She spent about $19,000 with these telemarketing companies. Another victim's name was Marie Walker out of Atlanta. She wanted to start her own health and beauty business online, and she saw an ad, clicked on it, again, inundated with telemarketing calls. She paid about $18,000 to these companies. One day, she was having trouble with her website. She tried to call the company, she tried to email the company, and even go to their website. And when she went to their website, it said that website domain was out of order, was no longer in service, the phone number was no longer in service, and the emails were bouncing back. She said in the documentary that she got those same out of service responses from the company that was supposed to build her website, the company that was supposed to handle her advertising, this marketing company, and it was all under a company called Mastery Pro. Coincidentally, Penny Puckett was also paying money to Mastery Pro. So Mastery Pro was one of those scamming businesses that were buying lead lists from telemarketers, such as from telemarketing companies like the one Jen Shah owned. Now, Penny and Marie took their cases to court, but the company that was listed in the lawsuit or the federal case was not associated with Jen Shah's company. That was the company Mastery Pro, which was owned by a different person, but they are listed in that lawsuit. Jen's situation is different because she is facing federal charges for felony crimes in the state of Utah and in the state of New York. What she's being accused of is wire fraud and money laundering. So they want to find out if Jen was somehow knowingly involved in selling these lead lists to these irreputable companies. Did she know that they were scam artists? Was she aware that this is what these companies were doing? And then did she have any companies that were doing the same thing? On the show, when people asked her how does she get so much money, she says that she owns several businesses, one of them being the telemarketing business, but she didn't get into what these other businesses were. So they might have been the businesses that were offering goods and services but never delivering on them. In addition to Jen being arrested and charged with these felony counts, her number one assistant, Stuart Smith, was also charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. They were both arrested in March of 2021. 8 months after Stuart Smith was charged, he changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. What he actually pleaded guilty to was obstruction and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He admitted to hiding money for some of these companies that were involved in the case that the federal government was investigating. During this time, Jen maintained her innocence. She was still filming the show and saying, "I'm fighting for my life." Her tagline, if you guys ever watch The Housewives, you know that they have a tagline at the beginning of the show. Her tagline was, "The only thing I'm guilty of is being Shah amazing." Everything she says, she puts the word Shah in front of like her tagline. So even in the midst of facing decades in jail, she was still, she was still enjoying being a socialite and being in the public eye. She was doing public appearances at the Hustler Club in New York City. And the Hustler Club is a spicy dancer club, if you guys don't know. So she's out in the public making, appearances, doing paid appearances, and just acting like, she's not facing major federal charges and going to jail for possibly the rest of her life. Her castmates were asking her questions, how do you feel about the charges that you're facing? What does Sharif say, her husband? And, what does the future look like? And she just kept, arguing that no one knew what she was going through and she was fighting for her life and she's scared to death about what could happen to her in the future. But again, she maintained her innocence. That was until July of 2022 when Jen Shah changed her plea from not guilty to guilty. Now, she changed her plea 1 week before her trial was supposed to start. And in season 3 of Salt Lake City, she talks about how her case was coming up and how her trial was coming up and how she was trying to save all of this money and, just get her head straight in order to prepare for the trial. Maybe her lawyers told her that this was going to be an uphill battle and they could risk losing, and it was better for her to take a plea deal, plead guilty, and just avoid trial. And that's what she did. She pled guilty to conspiracy, count 1, which was conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Count 2 was conspiracy to commit money laundering. So she pled guilty to count number 1. I don't know as of yet if count 2 was dropped, but her sentencing was scheduled for this month. Now, I went to the website where you can see where all of the changes in her case, her arrest, her first hearing, her trial date, her sentencing. I went to that website to check the status of her sentencing, and there was a note saying that on October 6th, the judge agreed to delay or postpone her sentencing to December. So Jen is going to be sentenced for her crime on December 16th, I believe, of 2022. Again, she has pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, which could result in a 30-year sentence. So I am going to stay on top of this case to see what happens with Jen's sentencing. Again, she's a public figure. She has displayed her wealth all over TV and social media. I don't know if the judge will go easy on her, because this is, again, elderly women and men that she is accused of taking advantage of and stealing millions of dollars from these people through this telemarketing scam. And because there were other companies involved, there's other scammers involved, there's hundreds of victims involved, and it's a multi-state thing. It's a multi-layer case, which comes with so much difficulty. And I think she did the right thing by pleading guilty and not going to trial, because this thing could have drawn out for so long. More witnesses could have come forward. Her assistant could have testified against her. It just could have been a lot worse. But whether or not it was worth it to plead guilty now or go through trial, that is yet to be seen, and that's going to be determined after her sentencing. I can only imagine what kind of time someone would have to serve for a crime such as this. Jen is 48 years old. She has a husband and 2 sons. So if she's sentenced to 10 years, she will probably serve 5 years and get out on probation and good behavior, which will put her at 53 years old and will have her being released in 2027. I don't know. Teresa was sentenced to 1 year in jail, and her husband Joe Giudice was sentenced to 3 years. Erica Jane was just released as a defendant. So right now, Jen Shah is facing 30 years in prison for her crime. We'll know more in December. Thank you guys. You guys asked for this closer look and this deep dive into the Jen Shah case. So I hope I have provided all of the information of this case so far that you guys were interested in and were looking for. Again, I'm going to leave the link for the trailer for the Housewife and the Shah Shocker in the description below. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment below and let me know which case deserves a closer look. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay safe.